think we're live. Hey, it's Wei from the Six Figure Academy. Welcome to another Happy Snack at Noon, our weekly little snack that helps you increase your money flow, optimize your mindset, and more importantly, basically create life mastery. You would think that I say this every single week and it would come out a little bit smoother, but I'm human. It's one of those things. So welcome to the show. If this is your very first time, welcome, welcome. And today's Happy Snack is something that has been asked of me a lot, really. It's one of those things where I have a passion for helping entrepreneurs. I love entrepreneurship. I love the whole concept about entrepreneurship. And for a lot of us, it's the allure of being an entrepreneur that kind of leads us into that, as opposed to having an idea. Because the way I like to define entrepreneurship is that people who get paid solving problems in the world. Not a business owner, but an entrepreneur. We're driven by solving problems for other human beings, for humanity, for the planet, or whatever the case may be. That's, I think, is the truest and most holistic definition of what an entrepreneur is. And I think for a lot of people, the draw to become an entrepreneur is the draw to being able to make a contribution to the world, being able to solve something in the world, as opposed to being led with an idea. And so the topic for today's Happy Snack is, how do you become an entrepreneur? Because you love you're enamored with the idea of becoming an entrepreneur without an idea. Okay, and it's kind of like, a lot of people think, well, that's kind of putting the cart before the horse, and maybe it is. Most of the time, we hear these stories about people having an idea and then they become an entrepreneur. But if you're a bit of a purist, and there are a lot of entrepreneurs who are like that, they're not as attached to the idea as much as the lifestyle of an entrepreneur and the commitment to being compensated for solving problems in the world. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about is what you can do if you do want to go into the world of entrepreneurship, which, if you don't really know what entrepreneurship is going to require to be successful at it, get ready for a very fun ride, and how to then develop an idea after you decide that, yes, you want to be an entrepreneur. So when I was approached by someone who loved the idea of being an entrepreneur, grew up around entrepreneurs, but struggled with not figuring out, I don't even know what I can do as an entrepreneur. So what we then do is I created a list here so that we can talk about, all the different ways you can kind of help put you on the path of coming up with an idea to become an entrepreneur. What idea you can, or what problem you can solve in the world. So let me pull up that list real quick so we can see, okay? One of the first things you want to talk about, and let me move this so it's not in my face. One of the things you want to think about is that the first place to begin is what lights you up? Besides entrepreneurship, besides wanting to be an entrepreneur, what else in your life that you've done lights you up? For example, for me, I love beach volleyball. So that'd be one of the first things that I put down. Whether or not I can make a business out of it doesn't matter at this point. Right now, it's just about exploring what lights you up. Because if it doesn't light you up, I don't care how good of an entrepreneur you are, you will run out of steam. So the idea that you decide on that you want to use to be an entrepreneur has to absolutely light you up on some level, okay? And you know what? We are human. Sometimes it'll light us up for a little bit, and when we dive deep into it and realize, that's the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur. If something suddenly doesn't light you up, you can pivot and work on something else and explore something else. So I would highly recommend creating a list of all the things that light you up. Okay, when it comes to your life, don't be attached to how you're going to monetize it, how you're going to make a business out of it. So in my particular case, I would write down on a list beach volleyball. Okay, and then I'll come back to it and expand on that. Okay, another thing that lights me up is new technology. Well, okay, new technology, typically you just buy it, right? But there's other things I could potentially put, so let's just write that down. Cameras, microphones, what else lights me up? Being able to help other people, okay? Being able to help people unlock their potential. These are all the things that, for me personally, would light me up, and I would just add that to the list. Okay. Then when you've exhausted that list, the next thing you want to do is start writing down, well, you've solved problems in your life. Okay. And sometimes we don't recognize that the problems that we've solved in our life, other people have as well. So start making a list about all the problems you have effectively solved in your life. Okay. And then just make an exhaustive list of that. and don't add value or judge whether or not it's a problem worth mentioning. For example, you could be something simple as how to not get hangnails, when you're working in the garden or working construction, or how to make sure that your hands don't dry out when you're doing manual labor. Okay, he's like, well, why would I talk about that? Well, imagine how many people have that same problem. Okay, so I would say just explore and dive deep on as many problems as you have solved affecting your life without judging whether or not somebody else will have that problem. Just write it all down. And it should be a big list because you're alive today because you've solved a lot of problems to move forward. And, I worked with somebody who eventually became a tutor because the problems they solved were academic related. And so they found that it lit them up to be able to solve things on an academic level. So guess what they ended up doing? They created a tutor business to help students solve problems or develop problem-solving strategies. Okay? We live in a fantastic time where you can make money doing just about anything. I would say doing anything. And so that's the first thing you want to do. If you are deciding you want to be an entrepreneur today, there's no better time to do it. We just want to go through this process if you don't have an idea yet, okay? Now, after you make that list of problems, what you can do right next to that, to each of those problems that you list, talk about anybody else that you know that has the same problem. Okay, that's a really important piece because then what you want to do, maybe somebody that you know, maybe somebody you don't know, and maybe you can go out there and poll people that you meet or come across. Okay, a lot of times when you see these YouTubers or content creators going out and interview people in the public, not only are they creating content, but they're also doing research at the same time based on the responses they're getting from people, which will then drive their ability to kind of expand their business and make their business better. Okay, so start making a list of anybody else that you know or maybe don't know or can imagine maybe having the same problem that is unresolved. Now, for each of those problems that you listed, what are the solutions out there? Okay. When you make these lists out and align it with all the different problems that you list, when you're done, then you go back to that first list of all the things that light you up and see if any of those problems that you solved can be done or the solution can be created or systematized in the context of what lights you up. Okay. Obviously, there's some deeper levels of what you can do to kind of expand on this, but today's happy snack it's a snack. What do you say? It's not a full meal, but it's enough to get you going. So if this is indeed your struggle, that I love the idea of being an entrepreneur and I want to do it, I just don't have any idea of how to do it, well, then just go through this process real quick to open up the possibilities and see what you come up with. I guarantee if you do this properly, you will create more happiness in your journey of becoming a successful entrepreneur than if you don't and just go into the fray and just do whatever somebody else tells you. Because that's what happens a lot too. People, I want to be an entrepreneur. Oh, you should go do this. And you say, okay, but it doesn't light you up. You're not familiar with the problem that it solves and you're not passionate about it. And then you basically burn out and say, I hate entrepreneurship. But it's not really about that, okay? That's the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur. You could do anything you want. And you can make money or monetize doing anything you want, okay? So we'd love to hear your thoughts about what I just shared. Maybe something that you can add to this if you are an entrepreneur and if you've gone through this process already. Or, if you have any ideas of other happy snacks I can do that's related to this or completely different. If you liked what you heard, share it because sharing is caring and give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give me a thumbs down. Either way, it's feedback. And don't forget to subscribe and destroy that notification. I don't even know what that means. Destroy it? I don't know. Kick it to the curb? Whatever. Okay. Hit that notification bell so that way when I go live again every single week, you will get notified. And remember, oh, there's a happy snack right there waiting for me to help me become happier in life. Okay. Because ultimately that's what we all here to do, to work towards that. Otherwise, anyway, have a fantastic week. Would love to hear your thoughts about anything that you did here. And then I will see you next week. All right. Enjoy.